Go ahead and raise your hand if your team is still playing meaningful football games. I see about 199 hands out there. Georgia got one more left in them. Got one more in the tank. We've got so much we could say about the Peach Bowl in Ohio State. Maybe we'll get to it in the offseason. I don't know. Today, we got business to attend to.
Why don't we get to a game that's ahead of us, Daniel?
Why don't we get on to TCU, a team that also has meaningful football left to play? Let's give you our initial gut reactions on the TCU Horned Frogs today on the Locked On Bulldogs podcast.
You are Locked On Bulldogs, your daily podcast on the Georgia Bulldogs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Bulldogs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am Clint. He is Daniel. You are part of the 199 that somehow got us over 5,000 subscribers on YouTube. Don't know how that happened.
People got phones. They got a work phone.
They got burner accounts all day long. So good on you.
Use that kid's phone.
Good on you, listener, getting us over that mark. We wanted to hit that before the national championship game. We are here. If you are on the YouTube, go over to the audio side.
Let's get
subscribe,
that audio subscriptions numbers up. Let's get that number bumped up.
That would be great. Today on Locked On Bulldogs, we are talking three things, and really it is, again, meaningful football.
Where are you going?
I don't know.
To move?
Look, we're talking about three things.
Clint was just targeted, I believe. There's somebody called targeting. Somebody just hit him with the crown of the helmet.
Buller just hit me with his shoulder, and I went back in time.
Shoulder to shoulder contact, and you still blacked out.
Yes. We are talking about three things: meaningful football, meaningful football, meaningful football.
That's right.
TCU national championship. We are here. We're going to give our thoughts on this TCU team. What is ahead? We have a busy week. We're going to have a couple of people from TCU that cover the team
coming
on to here. Your boys are going to be live on Monday. Could be.
We'll just say.
Hard to say.
We don't listen.
It's the national championship week.
All bets are off. It's all on the table. We don't know.
I may just show up Sunday night with a knock on Daniel's door in Nashville. Be like,
put a bag over my head, throw me in a van. We end up in Los Angeles. I can confirm. We won't find ourselves on a yacht at any point. That is not something that we will be messing around with.
No.
Shout out to Blake and Hannah for listening to the podcast for the first time all year. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Blake, I've given you shouts out before, but again, zim zap, zoobity zba.
Yep, not this week.
Whatever.
Let's talk about that TCU team, Clint. And I want to let you start because you and our boy Dawgs Stats.
Dawgs Stats, go give a follow.
Dawgs Stats over on Twitter. Heck of a follow. Heck of a guy.
Heck of a guy.
Don't get him started on the playoff expansion. Don't get him started on many things. But heck of a guy to follow.
Call him a stats nerd.
Heck of a guy to chat with. You and he had some interactions, and I want to give you a chance to share some of the insights on this TCU offense because I know we've all watched TCU this year. They played some of the most memorable games of the college football season.
Thrilling stuff.
Incredible story, incredible team. Let's get into what makes them who they are, Clint, and what are the most interesting things that stand out to you, particularly on the TCU offense?
Yeah, we know the stats, and this is deep analytics stuff. And if you don't appreciate or like deep analytics, I'm sorry, it is meaningful.
It has a point. Just stick around to the end.
It has a point. And Todd Monken believes in this point because if you understand Todd Monken and how he is explosive and efficient, it explains why our offense is, wait for it, explosive and efficient. So let's go with the TCU offense. And this is what I'm going to give you two stats that stood out to me. Again, Dawgs Stats, great follow, giving him all the credit. Two stats that are very, very, very important to me. One, points per game. TCU 41.1 points per game, sixth in the nation. Yards per play. It's a lot of points.
That's a lot of points per game.
It's a lot of points. Stat two, yards per play. 10th in the nation's yard per play. Just giving you a little, they average 6.9 yards per play, just for a little understanding. Georgia averages 7.1 yards per play. So slim margin of difference between us and TCU.
So do you know where we rank in terms of the? You said they're 10th. Do you know where we are?
7th.
10th and 7th. Okay, so we're right.
Very close.
Right.
Very
there.
close. Okay, but here's the confusing part. For us, we have a success rate on offense.
Explain success rate.
Success rate means this. The thing you set out to do, you did well. Okay. You beat the defense in attempting to get, if it's a deep ball, you got that deep ball. If it's a short yardage, if it's 3rd and 3, you converted the 3rd and 3.
It's based on the down and distance. It's based on the down and distance, and it's taking off a set number of predetermined yards that would say if you're at 1st and 10, then a 5-yard gain is a successful play. If you're at 3rd and 8, well, you need 8 yards, or that play is a total failure. You need 8 yards for it to be a successful play.
Another way of putting it is the old adage, playing ahead of the sticks.
That's right.
You're playing ahead of the sticks. You're not getting behind the sticks.
Right. So what's the success rate for TCU?
Well, I'm going to give you Georgia first. Georgia's success rate, we are 3rd most successful offense in the nation. 52.7% of the time we are successful.
You'll love to hear it.
It's a great success. Mm-hmm. This is where things get a little confusing to me. High yards per play, high points per game. Yep. All of a sudden, their success rate is 54th in the nation. Daniel?
That's interesting. There's only 2 teams left, and you wouldn't expect either of those teams to be 54th in very much.
54th.
Yeah, okay.
It's very, very confusing for me. I don't understand it. Their passing success rate, 66th in the nation.
Also not great. So now, is there, because I know the conversation continues from here, how do you reconcile these things? How are they scoring all these points if they're not, as you said it, to put it in old football terminology, if they're not staying ahead of the sticks, if they're not having successful first down, successful second down plays, how is it that they're this potent of an offense? How is it that they're scoring all these points?
And now, again, they are very good. They're playing very well. They have some success, not as much as the down and distance, but they have points per game, yards per game. Here's what's happening. 2 things. They're playing very timely defense, which we're going to get to a couple stats here in the second segment. I'm going to give you 4 key plays from the Michigan game that really just completely changed the face of that. But they're playing timely defense.
Yes.
And they're playing explosive, opportunistic offense.
There it is.
Meaning, sure, you're gonna get stuffed on first down, second down, incomplete, negative 2-yard rush, but all of a sudden, pop, 35-yard bomb.
Yeah.
First down. Same exact thing. First down, second down, not successful, bam, 20-yard run to the left. This is how TCU makes it.
Let me explain that just in terms of layman's, numbers are hard. I understand that. If you have a failed first down play, a failed second down play, and then a successful long pass on third down, that's 1 out of 3 successful plays. That's only 33%. And yet it's still a first down. You still get to keep moving the ball down the field. It's a low floor, high ceiling offense, if that's a way that you want to think about it. That's what TCU does.
Their bad is really
they might get stopped for negative yardage on any given play, or they might hit you over the top for a straight bomb. Nobody uses the deep passing game more effectively, I think, in college football than TCU, and that includes teams like Tennessee and teams like Ohio State. Nobody uses the home run ball the way that TCU does. In the third segment, we're going to talk about what that means in terms of specific players and specific matchups.
Oh, boy.
But just
grab
if you're one of the 199, you already have it strapped to your chest, but grab a bucket for the third segment if you want to do that.
I'm not.
Let's transition to some defensive. Let's talk about this TCU defense when we come back.
But first, I want you to know about LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a spot that you need to go to find that new job. Let's say that you're a university in search of a chancellor of integrity because yours is gallivanting on a boat somewhere, Daniel.
Yes, with domestic abusers.
With domestic abusers,
that's right.
Aplenty.
Mm-hmm.
You need to go on LinkedIn. They don't allow domestic abusers on their site, first and foremost. So LinkedIn's good people.
That's their policy.
They're great. They are fantastic. They are the place. You have over 800 million connections, networks, people that you know that know other people that can get you the right candidate for your job. And right now, you can get the applicant that you need for free at linkedin.com/college. LinkedIn.com/college. Post your job for free.
All right, Clint, let's talk about this defense. Obviously, famously, I don't know if it's famous, but you should know this if you're a Georgia fan. TCU plays a 3-3-5 defense. Not a lot of
infamous.
Not a lot of universities in the NCAA are running the 3-3-5 these days.
Can we talk about why that is really quick?
Why not a lot of running, or why TCU is?
Why TCU is.
Sure.
Okay. Here's why you run a 3-3-5. The 5 corresponds to the defensive backs in the backfield. 3 linebackers, 3 down linemen. And here's why you run 5, because you can get, as TCU, if you haven't seen recruiting charts, top 10, not often a fan favorite of TCU as it pertains to recruiting. Not often. They're not getting these 5 4-star guys. They're still recruiting at a good clip. Don't get me wrong.
Great players.
Sure. But why you run a 3-3-5 is because it gives you more flexibility on the back end to make up and be creative and try to do something different. It messes with an offense's counting system and blocking scheme and zone coverage. You can get guys that are a little bit smaller, a little speedier, can run around on the back end, get that 5 personnel in the defensive back room. So it helps negate maybe some recruiting losses as well as some coaching losses for not having enough development against offenses that need to go ahead and make a little gimmicky. It's kind of like the Gus Bus of defense, if you will.
Fascinating. Now, just to be clear, Georgia runs 5 defensive backs most of the time.
They have that star.
Most of the time, Georgia is in nickel. The year is 2023. Everybody got 5 defensive backs out there on the field. If you're out there playing with 4 defensive backs, T's and P's, because it's not going to last very long. Georgia plays most of their personnel in a more traditional nickel, which is more like a 4-2-5. But a lot of that is edge players who are dropping down. They don't have their hand on the ground. Maybe they do. Maybe they back up. Maybe they drop out. Maybe they blitz the quarterback. So Georgia is multiple in their defensive fronts too. The narrative going into the Michigan game, into the semifinal game, was that Michigan, big, strong, physical offense. I don't know if you heard they won the Joe Moore Award. Clint.
Oh, they won the Joe Moore Award. By the way, win it every year if it means that you get booted first round.
Win it every year. We'll gladly come in second and get that natty. That's fine with us.
There it is.
The narrative coming into that game was that Michigan was just going to impose themselves on TCU. Jam it right down their throat. That 3-3-5 could never stand up. They don't have enough big bodies. They don't have enough big physical dudes. And then what had happened was TCU said, not today, Wolverines. And a little salty, this TCU defense. You said opportunistic. They play opportunistic defense. They do. They also play a little salty defense.
Now, look, don't hear me say this, because we have a couple of kids like this on our team as well. Don't hear me say this next and think I'm putting TCU down. I'm not. They have a bunch of
When you called them the Gus Malzahn of defenses, were you putting them down then? Just so we're clear, I just want to be. I want to be 100% sure that I understood everything.
Look, do as I say, not as I do, Daniel.
Blake, are you still in the second segment? Are you still listening to the second segment? Okay.
Ziggity zag. Look. They are the Gus Malzahn of defenses. They have a bunch of try-hard kids, Daniel. Now, that's not putting them down. You have to try hard on defense and like you have to hustle. Wait till third segment, 199. Wait till it, because we're going to talk about wide receivers against our defensive backs, and we have a defensive back who's all-world talented that may not have the try-hard gene, and it has a bunch of consequences. So I'm not putting them down. All I'm saying is, they got salty opportunistic. They came against Michigan and said, you're not going to take this from us. You're going to have to earn it. And that is true about all these kids. And they got some speed. Daniel, they got some kids that can run. Not their middle linebacker. He can't run worth beans.
Oops.
But everybody else pretty dang fast, Daniel.
Yeah. Let's talk about, you said you got some plays for the Michigan game, some things that stand out to you. When you look at this TCU defense, from a schematic standpoint, what are you seeing?
Yeah, here's the thing. This I got from Parker. Stats-O-War is his Twitter handle. Me matey. By the way, Good on you, Pirate people.
Mississippi State.
Mississippi State.
Go Bulldogs.
Go Bulldogs. Always. Absolutely. Here's what happened. I'm going to give you 4 plays from the Michigan game that really, really tilted the entire affair into TCU's way. There are 4 defensive plays. Bud Clark had a 41-yard interception return. D. Winters had a 29-yard interception return. Bud Clark had a goal line fumble recovery. And then Jim Harbaugh inexplicably going for it on 4th and goal with the stupidest play ever created.
What was he doing?
He was wanting to go to the NFL, Daniel. That's what he was doing.
There's a double end around pass to the quarter. What are we doing?
And the quarterback did. It was Philly special, except the special didn't know he was getting the ball.
No, he ran straight to the defender and then stopped.
Yeah.
It's not ideal.
They won by 6. And what Stats Award Parker is giving me here is on those 4 plays alone, TCU defense created 26.8 points of value for those plays. Basically this, they tilted the game, inverted the game's advantage on those 4 plays into their favor. Without those 4 plays, Michigan seems to roll, Daniel.
There were moments in the game when Michigan was rolling. And you know, to TCU's credit, it's not like Michigan didn't get any breaks either. TCU fumbles.
Yep.
Michigan gets the ball right to start the 4th quarter. That was a huge play in the game. Michigan had their opportunities, and the TCU defense got timely stops when they needed to. But, just like we talked about the offense, this TCU defense seems to thrive on big plays. They are not your prototypical 2-yard gain on 1st down, 3-yard gain on 2nd down, 0-yard gain on 3rd down, punt type of defense, right? That's a Georgia type of defense, right? Like that's
suffocating.
It's a prevent you from moving forward till you kick us the ball. TCU is sure, you can move the ball forward, but because eventually we're going to take it from you. Eventually we're going to have the ball, and then we're going to go score again with our explosive offense. Again, you don't want to say like defensive cliches, it's not really even a bend but don't break. It's a bend until you break them type of defense. It's go get the football and flip the game around. And that's, to your point, that's exactly what they did against Michigan.
It's a counterpuncher's game, Daniel. There are some defenses that you don't want to take shots. You don't want to get hits. There are the ones that say, fine, you can hit me, but I'm going to hit you back. Their defense is like, no, I'm going to get hit until I find an avenue to go ahead and slip one past your defense and really catch you completely off guard. And that's what I mean by opportunistic. You can't force that. You can't impose that. Yeah. You have to be ready to respond. And this TCU defense, again, to their credit, Daniel, we can say, hey, you're going to have to lose one of these eventually. They haven't.
But do they?
That's what I mean. Like, people keep on saying they can't keep it up and so on and so forth. We're going to come back with the 199 loyal 3rd segment listeners, and we're going to talk more TCU right after this. Daniel, you seemed like you had a place to go for this segment.
Yeah. Well, it's not a fun place.
Where do you want to go that's going to make us go for the buckets as we talk about maybe some dogs that don't have that dog in them?
Well, I want to keep the focus on TCU for as long as I possibly can.
Okay.
Because I'm not trying to get out here. I'm not trying to get ahead of my skis, get crucified, get ratioed in the comments. That's not what I'm trying to do. I
said Gus Malzahn defense, Daniel.
He went out. He got out early. He got out after it early. Let me just say this. Do I think Georgia's going to win this game? I do think Georgia's going to win this game. Do I think TCU is a better matchup for Georgia than Michigan would have been? I do not. And I have been clear about that from the get-go. Clint has said Michigan is a team that could give Georgia trouble. I disagree. I did not think there was any chance Michigan could be. I wanted Michigan. I wanted to play Michigan. Do I think Georgia's going to win this game? Absolutely, I do. But as my man Colin had said earlier in the week on Twitter, I will just echo the sentiment on behalf of the Dawgs podcast.
Okay.
While I think Georgia's going to win this game, let me be totally clear. I don't want Quentin Johnston anywhere near me. Like, I don't. He is that dude. Okay. The comp that I made to him earlier to a buddy was like Marvin Harrison Jr., freakishly talented wide receiver.
Sure.
Right? Jamison Williams last year, freakishly talented wide receiver. But this man out here looks like Julio Jones running down the field. Like
that is such a fantastic. I was going to go AJ Brown.
No, but it's just a straight Julio running down the field.
I like it.
He is a freak. He's big. He's fast. He's physical. He catches the ball, and he is the home run threat. He averages 18 yards per catch this year. He's got 6 touchdowns. He's got over 1,000 yards receiving, and he is the passing game.
You know that
for
meme
TCU
that just says, oh, screw it. He's down there somewhere, and quarterback just launches the ball. He is that. That is
guy.
Who he is.
And let me just say, as diplomatically as I can, that's a problem for Georgia. Okay?
It's bucket worthy.
The most ridiculously naively optimistic Georgia fan has to admit that's a problem for your Georgia Bulldogs. Okay? So we've said all year, we went into the Ohio State game saying, you're not going to dink and dunk, and Ohio State did not dink and dunk.
They didn't.
Georgia. You're not going to dink and dunk Georgia to death. You're not going to run Georgia to death. No. Ohio State rushed for like negative 1 million yards. You are going to beat Georgia by making big plays down the field. TCU's offense thrives on making big plays down the field.
That's what they do.
That is what they do. Now, they also run the ball. They run the ball really well.
Yeah, that cat had some nice grounded out yards against Michigan.
Kendre Miller, don't know his health status for this game.
Yeah.
And that is a significant blow to TCU. This is not like the Georgia running back room where it's just a revolving door and a stable of backs.
No, it's
the DeMarcado kid came in and he played admirably. But that is not the same caliber of back. And so if Kendre Miller doesn't play in this national championship game, will be a huge blow to TCU. But honestly, I don't think you're going to run the ball against Georgia anyway. And so while it does make a difference, I don't think it makes as big of a difference. I think if you're going to run the ball against Georgia, it's going to be a lot of Max Duggan anyway, running the ball.
That's the key.
And then it's going to be deep shots down the field. And so, again...
Daniel, I don't want to say this.
Oh, but it seems like you do. So
but I do. If you didn't have a joyful time watching our defense try to stop Stroud, buckle up.
See, I'm going to wait a few days on this one, but I think I disagree with you. I think I disagree with that take.
Daniel, I hope you marinate on that and then come back to me and help me.
So just hold on, 199. I think there's some notable differences in these two quarterbacks. Although it might seem on the surface, Duggan's more mobile than Stroud.
I was just going to say.
Duggan is more athletic than Stroud. Duggan is more elusive than Stroud. And so why would it be easier for us to get Duggan on the ground than it was Stroud on the ground? I think later in the week, I don't know, but I think I'm going to make the point that it will be.
I am thrilled for Daniel to go through the mental gymnastics.
I need to percolate on it a little bit.
That a quarterback we couldn't tackle.
I can talk myself into anything if you give me enough time.
A quarterback we couldn't tackle is less mobile and less athletic than the one we're currently going against, but we'll have better. This is going to be fun.
Let me talk about this TCU defense and make some observations there as it relates to Georgia. What did we say this TCU defense thrives on, Clint?
Opportunity.
Big plays, turnovers, flipping the game. What has Georgia struggled with this year? What
turnovers seem to be a newfound
Is the
plague.
turnover margin something we would call positive or something we would call negative for the season?
No, I fear that somebody is no longer above ground in Kirby's backyard because turnover has been a plague for us.
Lost the turnover battle again against Ohio State.
Yep.
And we've been losing it all year. Now, we're 14-0 with a negative turnover margin, Clint.
I don't like that.
I don't love it, but I like it more than being, 11-2 Sugar Bowl champs with a positive turnover margin.
Ooh.
Like, that sounds better than that, at least. But Georgia has been bitten with the turnover bug this year, and TCU is a team that likes to create turnovers. And so, again, while it might appear, as it did for Michigan, that Georgia would have some advantages, dominant physical offensive line, powerful running backs, freakishly big tight ends, maybe all three freakishly big tight ends.
Big O playing, y'all. Just
guys, if big,
mark it, book it.
While it might appear that Georgia should be able to impose themselves on TCU, that's exactly what Michigan thought they were going to be able to do. Couldn't do it, and opportunistically, TCU was able to take the ball away from Michigan and turn that game on its head. It got out of hand. I mean, TCU needed every single one of those points that they accumulated early to hold on to
for dear life
by the end of that game. Listen, I think Georgia's going to win this game. We both think Georgia's going to win this game. We're going to pick Georgia to win this game.
Yes.
But if you're a Georgia fan, you're walking in this game and you see this a 13-point spread. Georgia's minus 500 on the money line.
Yeah.
This is just a yawn, snooze fest. Get it out. Don't bring that kind of energy to this podcast this week.
Not here.
Because this podcast this week, I'm just gonna prepare you. 199. This podcast will be a bucket heavy podcast because there's a lot of things that TCU does specifically, and we tried to articulate some of them. Specifically, there's a lot of things TCU does that are not good for Georgia, both on the offensive and defensive sides of the ball. So, do I think Georgia should win this game? Yes. Do I think Georgia should be the favorite in this game? Yes. Do I think that this is by any means settled, this national championship? I absolutely do not.
I'm going to give you a preview for what will come later in the week. Here's what I hope for Georgia. I hope for the most boring game in the entire world from Georgia. This is what I hope.
That would make me so happy.
If we have the most boring game ever, we cruise to a national championship.
24-6.
Sign me up right now. Well, if the biggest pass play is 14 yards.
Sign me up right now. Either side.
I was just going to say.
Biggest pass play, 14 yards. Georgia wins this game easily. Period. Georgia wins this game easily.
I need a boring game.
That'd be great.
A boring game, fundamental, we win.
I need Chris Fowler and Kirk Herbstreit to be looking for things to talk about mid-third quarter.
You can bring up Saban's age and contract.
Alabama and how loaded they are for next year. How they're the favorite. They've rebuilt their roster. They've got all this
transfer portal winners already.
Oh my gosh, they're killing the transfer portal. Even though I believe the transfer portal is bad for football now. Is that what Saban's on now? Are we on to bad for football?
He
had players opt out even though he had no opt-outs. Some of the non-opted out players did in fact opt out. Is that what I'm being told?
Bama fans, my favorite. We had 0 opt-outs except for the 13 transfer portal players.
All the people that chose not to play.
Saban said you can play, and they all said no.
And they all opted out.
I love it. We're going to be back all this week talking this TCU matchup, giving you insights for it. This has been Locked On Bulldogs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. He is Daniel. I am Clint. We will see you guys later.
See you tomorrow. See you.